If you stop practicing a certain craft, it won't evolve. When you start preserving something, like a practice or a heritage or a culture, you try to just replicate the last best thing that was made with that craft. For me, the craft is all about evolution. Why a pashmina has to be in that form for it to be a pashmina? Right? Why can't we take these practices and make objects that would be mainstream functional objects for everyday use, not decorative?
Indian art and artisans are dying out, and we are seeing this as a genuine problem today.
I wouldn't call this a problem because the world is getting smaller. Everyone has their own aspirations. So we have access to knowledge. The craft is disappearing because...
So this is where the craft happened. मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग पता है, फर्नीचर पता है. बीच में शादी कब हुई?
शादी नहीं हुई.
बच गया ना.
That's why he's able to do all this.
ऐसा मत बोलो. ऐसा मत बोलो. वो चॉइस हो सकता है. उससे वहाँ से डिस्कशन हो सकती है. What role having a mentor play?
I think a great mentor is a person who...
How does Sandeep Sangaru make money?
I don't make money. I survive. I sustain myself. Yeah, it's a complicated situation, no? For me to kind of not make it a business, but still make it a business.
Doesn't a lot of good design or innovation die because of this reason? धंधा नहीं कर पाया, वो डिजाइन मर गया.
It does. But how do we deal with this situation, right? Are we going to do a business out of it? Are you going to push the boundaries of the craftsmanship? How are you going to do it?
What's your vision for this?
Creative Spark Plug is a black book of creative journeys. We are documenting the trials, tribulations, meanderings, processes, the journeys that creative individuals are taking or have taken in the process of being a creative person. We are leaving this for posterity, for people to get an insight into or learn from creative journeys themselves. Sandeep, I know Sandeep for a while now. I knew him before I met him. I knew him after I moved to Bangalore. I was working for Dovetail Furniture, and I think in one of these design collectives is when I met you with Sundar, Abhijit, loads of people were there.
Maybe,
Yeah. And he's always been quiet. And then I interacted one-on-one with him almost at a personal basis when I was doing my first startup. I think 2015, when I was doing Made For Me. And I felt his work was right up the alley for that startup. We were curating work of creative people who were one of a kind, right? Or who were initiating or doing something so exclusive that was either one of a kind or the first in the world. And there is where I spend a lot of time with him in his workshop and took his story down. Now, if I meet him in the middle of the road, I'll say, hello, Guruji, out of love. But I could actually lose myself in his studio and just be there. It doesn't matter whether he's there or not. I'll just keep on digging. It's a place for fascination, curiosity, getting excited, getting nourishment out of everything that he's exploring. Right? I love his work. I love his humility and the fact that he shares openly about everything that he's in pursuit of. I love my take on what he does, but that's a personal point of view of how he blends multiple things. There is culture, there is craft, there is skill, and how he's pushing the envelope everywhere, but in a very down-to-earth manner. He's not abrasive about any of these envelope pushing, which is what I love about knowing him, that there is a way to push the envelope, to be at the edge of innovation or creativity, being humble, and still being able to provide something new, something almost ecstatic to the world and the people that he collaborates with. So in some sense, I'd be curious about three aspects of his journey. How does he collaborate? How does he work with people, crafts, spaces, different ethnicities, different subgroups? That's a place of curiosity for me. What is this framework of collaboration? The second aspect is in a creative industry. How does he see it and how does he maneuver through it? What is his cornerstone in some sense? Or how has he created his cornerstone? Is he still in pursuit of it? The business of his space in the business of creativity. And the third thing is, I know for a fact that he's been very close to the late Mr. M.P. Ranjan, and he calls him his mentor. And I have had very little time with Mr. Ranjan. And I would like to understand or explore that aspect of something that we as Indians find in our heritage. We call it heritage because this parampara associated to the term of Guru Shishya. So in the context of being a creative, how is Guru Shishya parampara contemporarized from his point of view? Right? These are the 3 points that I'm curious about in his journey. I'll pass it on to you, Rajesh. Take it forward. I know you're going to get detailed on this and dive deep.
Sandeep, thank you so much for doing this with us. I know very little about you, but I know you're very popular and a lot of people know you and you design furniture. So how did all of this start? Where did you start from?
It's a long story. Yeah. I don't know where it started exactly, but I was kind of always a hands-on person as a kid growing up, and I kept that spark with me as I grew up also. So when I was trying to or looking to find a career, like how we always do, kind of kahan jana hai, kya padna hai, what else. So I was wondering what can be done. So I was lost. I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore, and that was one of my main agendas while I was trying to find a career that would allow me to do that. And of course, when you're choosing a career, travel is never a option for a career option we don't have. Yes. So we need to figure out what's the next best option. Then I was looking into things which would allow me to do hands-on activities of making or building or whatever. Then, of course, architecture was one, fine arts was another one, because this was way back in 89 when I was just finishing my school, plus 2, 89, 90, around that time. No internet, no access to information. So basic idea was the general knowledge that people had. One was fashion, one was fine arts, architecture. I think these 3 were the creative domain that we had access to. Design in general was always associated with fashion. And I stumbled upon an article which led me to knowing about NID, which kind of talked about it in really great depth. But at that time, I was not sure what it is. It's another design school I discovered apart from NIFT. So I thought I should apply for that. And I tried to convince my parents that I want to do design. And this is this place that called NID and all that. And I actually applied, got the application form and all that, because I wanted to do something that was hands-on. So then what happened was, I had no idea where it would lead me, and I couldn't convince my folks that okay, there is something, because we come from a middle class, we need to have something that kind of has a foundation for you to build on and live your life later. So they were very particular about doing something that had a strong foundation. So I chose to do my engineering. Engineering was also, I chose to do mechanical, because if design doesn't happen, I had another place to fall back. That was Merchant Navy. And we had a few family friends who were in that field. And I would like the lifestyle because they would have holidays and they would be getting this stuff from all around the world. And they used to travel. So that was the fallback thing for me to do engineering. And engineering also mechanical because it was about making things, how things work and function. Yeah, I think I never had, to answer your question, a goal. So I was trying to devise myself or navigate my journey to find what I like doing and how do I achieve it. And finished my engineering, applied for NID again because my parents said after that you do whatever you feel like doing. And
ये परमिशन सब पेरेंट्स देते हैं ना, उसके बाद कर लेना। ऐसा होता नहीं है बेटा।
So yeah, I got through NID, joined NID. Of course, I could have done product design, and there were two options for me, being coming from an engineering background: product design or furniture. But as I was starting to know more about NID, I was kind of navigating towards graphic design and more visual communication, because photography was also something that was happening besides, not like proper photography, but I was quite comfortable using a camera. My dad used to document everything and everything, so we had a camera, so I used to kind of play around with that. So I think once I could apply for two departments, product design or furniture.
This is PG, right?
It was postgraduate after my
because you've done your engineering already.
Yeah. The NID at that time, it was called something called, now it's called PG, it's a MDes program. Earlier it was called Advanced Entry Program, AEP.
Was Mukul your batchmate?
Mukul was my junior. I taught him actually. Mukul
Goel.
Not Goel. Goel? Not Goel. Goel is in Delhi.
Yeah.
He makes those.
Yeah. Figurines.
No, he's my senior.
He's your senior.
There was another Mukul
who's in Hyderabad right now. Spectacle guy. With a little goatee. Yeah.
So I go to the interview. Ranjan is there and everyone. I didn't know any of them. So Ranjan suggested, why you want to do furniture? You have an engineering background. Your portfolio talks a lot about your hands-on capabilities. You can take product design. I said, no, I don't want to do product design. I just finished my mechanical and I don't want to design anything that is very complex. And that's not hands-on actually. Because industrial design is, everything goes through a long process. It's an industrial process. And in the brochure of NID, not the brochure, what do you call
pamphlet, the curriculum book.
Curriculum. No, it's the admission brochure, which talks about departments. No? So in product design, they had mentioned anything from a safety pin to an airplane is
industrial design.
Industrial design or product design. That's too much to handle. I wanted to be hands-on, so furniture allowed me to do that. So I chose to do furniture. No. And that was just through a gut feeling. And maybe I should have done product design, but I don't know. I think at that moment when I was sitting in front of the stalwarts of Indian design education, they were the first design teachers that I got to know later. And furniture happened because I wanted to be more to do things that I can build myself rather than depend on something.
Your parents were into something. You mentioned your dad would document everything with the camera. So what exactly did he do, or was there any creative influence from the parents' side that drove you to come into this?
Yeah, well, my parents, dad used to actually paint. He was in the army, but he used to paint as a hobby and oil paint and all that. So while kid growing up, we were surrounded with art, not in a professional level. He was doing it more like a hobby. My mom also used to do a lot of things with hand. They were one of the initial influences in my life to kind of look into that, because I grew up looking into art through books in my home. So that was subconsciously, I think it got embedded into me rather than me trying to do something.
So, but you're not inclined to get into the army?
No, I did try all that. Because in school when you're there, we are applying everywhere. No, it's like friends are applying. Maybe form birthday. I also go for some coaching classes, study groups, and do all that. So NDA was happening. Engineering was happening, and everything was happening. Like medicine was also happening, in hotel management also was happening. So at that phase, it was more like exploring things and preparing for exams.
So engineering, where did you do?
I did it in Bhubaneswar. It's in
Bhubaneswar.
So I grew up in Bhubaneswar.
Okay.
And most of my schooling happened there. That's where I.
So I'm curious about the panel that interviewed him.
So I just coming to that.
Ranjan was there. Who else was there?
Ranjan was there. Jiu was there. And we had Chandra Vijay Singh. CVS. So CVS, that folding chair is from CVS. Yeah. So yeah.
You know the folding chair he's talking about. Most popular folding chair. कैसे explain करें उसको? It's very.
I don't know if it's popular, but it's made
the wooden
at
one.
a dovetail. Yeah.
यार एक जमाना था when we went for a wedding invite or something like that. Every chair in this thing used to be that chair, wooden. You have one in your studio as well.
The cross wala, no?
Yeah. The cross one, right? 2 spindles.
No, I'm not talking about that one. Yeah.
But CVS ka chair was that, right?
No.
Then I have mistaken his chair. Which chair would that be?
I don't know.
No.
So there's one chair. I don't know if you were at Dovetail. So Dovetail was producing them to be as a product. So there's only one folding chair which Dovetail made. It was a wooden chair, which is like an X-frame only. But so that was CVS's classroom project actually. When he was a student, he made that chair.
It flattens out and stacks up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
anyway, yeah.
I'll have to figure this out.
You studied in NID after you finished your engineering. And did that give you any edge because you already had the engineering background, that too mechanical, not an IT related engineering background. So in mechanical, you're already doing a lot of things which are machine related, parts related. You're also drawing, and it's like an hands-on thing in engineering itself. And from there, you move to furniture design. So did that give you any edge over students who came in from a design background into the postgrad program?
I think the wonderful thing about NID was everyone had their strength, which you, as a other person, you look at that skill as something that you don't have. And as a group, I think that peer learning from each other was quite interesting. As for my background as an engineer, I was more hands-on, like I was always. So I was always in the workshop. So I would use machines very comfortably and tools very comfortably than someone who has not used it before. So I was very comfortable doing that. So as a class in my group, I would actually make scale models, prototypes would be like done like that. I would have more things to show than my peers. I think that was an advantage that I had, maybe because not of my engineering, because I was always working with hands to build.
So why didn't you go for architecture or civil engineering or something like that, and why mechanical?
Mechanical was because I wanted to do merchant navy, because that was the only option, other option that I had. Architecture, I actually visited few architecture colleges to see what happens. Again, for me, the scale of production was big in architecture. I liked that architecture as a discipline, but for me, it didn't kind of pull. There was no such kind of connection I could make when I visited the colleges and saw people working, making models. It was again all hands-on stuff, but I never had that calling from architecture. The other one was fine arts.
More to do with painting and stuff like
art. Even that didn't kind of full.
So once you finished NID, what was your journey like? Did you get a job? Did you intern somewhere? Was it because this was your master's program? Did you decide that this is how you want to go about doing through your career? Or did it get created? Did it come through a default path that a few choices led to this? Or was this pre-decided and this is where you wanted to be?
So nothing was pre-decided. But I went to NID as a student. As the whole process of learning, I was exploring everything apart from what I was supposed to do as a furniture student. I was doing photography, I was helping other people, and we were a bunch of friends from different batches. Again, fans of movies and entertainment in general. So we were very fascinated and diehard fans of Star Wars, and so we were a group of 4-5 people, and parallelly we were exploring how things were built while making of Star Wars, because we had access to all this information at NID, be it movies, behind the scene books, or the film department itself. We had access to the nitty-gritties of what if we had to explore. So we were doing that thing parallelly. And I was doing my furniture and this and my photography, and I had no idea what I'm going to do after NID, because I was enjoying the whole process so much. I would have come 4 years before. I think I would have explored it even further, deeper as a field. But since I joined as a postgrad, I had only a time of 2.5 years. And I was doing everything I could under that roof, because that allowed me to do. And I took advantage of it very much. And so while I was on my final stages at NID, you have to do your final project with the industry. And it has to be something that is connected to your discipline. And I decided that I'm not going to work or take up job after this. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be on my own or travel or figure out my life. I don't know how, but I decided then only that.
And all design professionals end up doing that to themselves. I had a
That's how very people stick to it. It's tricky though.
Yeah.
So I thought I should just do this, my 6 months industry final year project with an industry, so that I have the experience of being there, done that kind of a situation. And being a furniture designer, the only options we had was Godrej and Blowplast. I think these two companies were the only thing at that time who were making furniture in a large setup. And of course, Dovetail was there. Dovetail was not there. Studio Line was there.
Studio Line was there.
Where they were making furniture and stuff. So I applied for, I did my internship, the 2-month summer internship with Godrej. Then I did my final project also with Godrej.
Okay.
So that was done. Then they offered me a job, which I didn't take up. When I came back and told my friends that,
why didn't you take it?
What's the problem? We should have just taken it up. I said, no, then what are you going to do? I don't know. So I just said no and came back to NID to give my jury. And so happened, once I finished my jury at NID, they asked me if I'd like to continue to work on a project that NID was working. And they were setting up a new department to start called accessory design. And they said, Sandeep, would you help us put this?
Hey, which year was this?
This was 99.
Ah, yeah, go for it.
So 99. That was like a 3 months, 4 months thing. So at least that gave me some time to think about. So I was doing that. And this group of friends, Bhupesh, he's from Hyderabad. So he went back to Hyderabad. And he showed this portfolio of work we were doing at the time passed, like exploring things at NID, special effects, miniature, all that stuff. So he called me one day and said, Sandeep, we are starting our studio in Hyderabad. In the film industry, you come over. I said, okay. I packed my bags from Ahmedabad and
I remember
went to
this.
Hyderabad.
Go ahead.
So then for the next 2.5 years, we were working in the film industry. So we called the company Digital Force. Nothing was digital, but for some reason it was called Digital Force. It was established when we were students only. Bhupesh named it like Digital Force, and we started kind of working together as a team, like Digital Force. So so the film industry happened, and we were doing special effects, storyboarding. Meanwhile, since I was there, I thought I should also explore cinematography. So I joined Gopal Reddy, a well-known cinematographer. Casually, we were working on the same film, doing the special effects. So I was hanging around and casually asked him, can I assist you? Can I join you? They said, yeah, come over. So I assisted him on 2 films, 2 movies, and working in that industry for like 3 years. It was interesting. It was surreal kind of world because you're in a situation where like everything is artificial. everyone is acting.
And everything's temporary.
Everything is a story to be told. And and when you're working on 2 or 3 movies, you are like in 2-3 different zones of this surreal world. And it was fun, actually. And you're hanging around with actors and stars, talking to them, having lunch or dinner with them, and it's like was a nice, interesting way of life. But me looking at that industry was working for the rest of my life was not my cup of tea. I felt again, I think it was larger than life. Again, you have to work with a larger team. Everything has to come together at the same time. A lot of coordination, a lot of tongue, a lot of thing, and that didn't allow me that freedom. Basically, as a child growing up, I always wanted to be free, do things, something that would be so. Yeah, that didn't happen. So one day I get a call again back from NID after 3 years.
This is around 2004-5.
Around
You did 99. You did
2002.
accessory design.
2002, 3 years, sir.
Then you went to film studio with Bhupesh. Right. What were you doing with Bhupesh? The digital production.
So it was a special effects studio.
Special effects studio.
Not visual effects. Special effects.
Special effects.
So we were all doing miniature stuff and all that.
Nice.
This is before 3ds Max.
No, 3ds Max aa chuka tha, but I don't think so they had that impact.
What GDS Max?
3ds Max.
3ds Max. All the Maya and 3ds Max, the modeling softwares.
Yeah, that always there. They come. But we were more into doing everything in a miniature or in-camera effects rather than visually creating them on computer. So Matrix was released during that time, and we created the first multicam setup for India. So we bought these Canon cameras, film cameras. We developed the whole software, the interface to do that. And I was kind of heading that project because I was also doing cinematography parallelly.
Right.
So we had a team of software and electronics designer. They interfaced that cameras to. So we bought some 36 cameras. That was like a lot of money.
36 cameras, that's one at every 10 degrees.
No, we can set it up as you like, depending on what you're shooting.
Did you do any of those things?
So we had designed the whole rig and the contraption, and yeah, we did a couple of shoots, and it was getting very expensive for the industry to kind of rent it out. Then basically, yeah, we sold those cameras slowly, but we did a few ad films, a couple of films and all that.
Anything that we'll find online right now?
I don't think so.
But since you said you got 36 cameras, did you do that thing which became trendy some time ago? I'm sure it was done earlier, which is, let's say somebody is bowling and mid-air, the bowler stops and the camera goes around.
So it started with that film Matrix, the bullet time.
Right.
So people, when we started this studio, everyone said, can you develop this rig for us?
That is the rig you developed.
So that's the rig we developed.
So basically you go mid-air with the ball like this, right? And then
it's like you see
the camera rotates all around. So basically there are 36 cameras or whatever, 18 cameras, I don't know what it shows around. So this is you're still with film right now? You're still with Bhupesh, you're doing cinematography, shows, your frames and everything. After that, when did you come back to doing what you're doing right now?
Oh, and then I went back to NID to teach.
You went back to NID to teach?
Went and taught.
And I taught for 2 years. So I was on the other side of the table now with Ranjan Jiyo, teaching with the people who taught me. And that was another whole journey. Because I was wondering what to do. And I would have fallen back. I was on the verge of starting my own furniture studio after the film thing was happening.
Right.
I was not sure. And I was also not sure about if I should make another chair. There's so many chairs in the world. If I should design and make one more. Because there was, again, that whole idea of making furniture was kind of somehow left me. There is no more fun in that. Because there's so many chairs in the world, on the planet actually. Why do you want to make one more chair, one more table, one more bed? So I got this call from NID if I'd like to come back because they were starting the program. And I said, yeah. So I just put stuff in my Jeep, drove down from Hyderabad to Ahmedabad, it was a contract for 2 years. So it was interesting thing because it's a new discipline. We were starting to design the curriculum, the assignments, what this department has to be and how different is it from product design or other similar things, because sometimes we need to distinguish that particular department. So yeah, it was an interesting process of putting things together on a curriculum level and also teaching the first batches of students. And meanwhile, I was doing
first batches of
the discipline, the new discipline.
Okay, which was this discipline?
It was called lifestyle accessory design.
So basically, 99, what you were called for had evolved to becoming a course, and you went back to it after 3-4 years, and you signed up a contract with NID for 2 years. Nice.
So to set up the discipline along with the core main faculty, I was kind of and also was taught the first 2 batches. Was part of the
2004-5,
2, 3, 4. Wow. I was there as a full-time faculty for 2 years, but I used to go back as a visiting faculty to teach. So in those 2 years, I worked on other projects that NID was taking up professionally. One was the book called Handmade in India.
Right.
So the authors were MP Ranjan and Aditi Ranjan, and that project started at NID when I was a student. So it was a book to kind of catalog the crafts of India and the practices. So the research had started while I was leaving NID as a student in my last semester. And when I went back to teach, the project was almost at its peak of documenting. So people were sent to the field to actually get document and photograph and do all that. So I went to Andhra Pradesh, traveled from the north to the south, going from village to village, home to home, talking to people. And that's my first interaction with craftspeople and craftsmen. And that was the turning point.
So this is where the craft happened. Furniture पता है, mechanical engineering पता है, furniture पता है. बीच में शादी कब हुई?
शादी नहीं हुई.
शादी नहीं हुई, okay. अभी भी नहीं की?
नहीं.
बच गया ना?
That's why he's able to do all this.
ऐसा मत बोलो, ऐसा मत बोलो. वो चॉइस हो सकता है, उसमें वहां से डिस्कशन हो सकती है. ये क्या तरीका हुआ? तुम्हारी बीवी के साथ बाद में बात करता हूँ. So between him, his wife and I, his wife introduces me as her सौतन. कभी भी कॉल करता हूँ, यार ये इसके साथ ये बात है, इसकी मेरा सौतन है, बात कर लो इसके साथ. So this is the latest joke that is going around. So yeah, please continue, because usually this is in most people's lives. This is a point of time that lots happen, right? You're graduating from college, especially if you've done a PG. You're settling down and finding your way professionally and career-wise. Their personal life is also kind of walking alongside. And if both of them are happening, then there's a tricky domain. And they influence each other. You can't really say that they're distinct from each other. At the end of the person is the same, right? So I felt the need to ask this. But fair enough. So accessory design, and you're also doing craft documentation in some sense with Handmade in India.
So Handmade in India, it's about crafts of India.
Yeah.
So I have seen a team.
I have actually seen a copy of this book, but where can I find it now? Is it still available?
They have just reprinted it, so you should get a copy.
Right. Because I think that's iconic. I think I've seen it with Aparna. She would definitely have a copy, but I think I've seen it there. I don't remember where I saw it, but I've seen a listing.
So it's a very interesting exposure for me, because I always wanted to be hands-on. And when this thing happened, when I actually started interacting with craftspeople and seeing the whole process of making intrigued me a lot, kind of. It's like there's no drawing, there's no sketch, nothing. Everything is like in your hands. It's like muscle memory, no? You're doing things. And every craft I documented, every village or every artisan I met had a similar thought process. Maybe the lady is doing a crochet or a textile or spinning the yarn to the person who's casting a brass idol. had a similar understanding of life. I don't know, something that connected to the earth, because I think it was a way of life for them more than something that they're trying to do like a profession.
So, Sandeep, I'm curious about this thing that you were saying, and I'm putting my own words into it. Feel free to correct me if I'm jumping to a conclusion in some sense as well. You were talking about in the process of meeting these families who were representative of a craft. For them, it was a way of life. Would that be right to say?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that when you say for them it was a way of life? Because usually a person's craft is a way to their sustenance at some level, because they sustain their families with the money they earn. That's one aspect. The other aspect, it's also their identity, because they get identified for what they do. And it also creates in the social context of things, they're put into a certain place, right? In the social construct, that ye architect hai, wo builder hai, ye doctor hai. So these are the three dimensions that we tend to see when you speak about somebody being representative of their art or craft or profession. When you say way of life, how would that be different from this construct?
The way I perceived,
right?
I think before my exposure of going there and documenting and meeting people, my understanding of a craft practice or a craftsman was very different.
Okay. Which was
like, you see craft one as a heritage, as a practice that is nowadays practiced only to preserve it, that you can put it on the wall or gift it to someone, right? And it's done by maybe one craftsman or a craftsperson or a master craftsman who gives life to it. And that is a general notion we have, or I had, before venturing out to meet these people. I'm saying it's a way of life because it's not one person who's doing it. If you're weaving a fabric or a sari or a dhoti, okay, someone has to grow the cotton. Someone has to harvest it. Someone has to card it, process it, for the next step for it to be dyed. Someone has to make the dyes. Okay. Someone has to dye it. There is a chemistry in doing that, right? Then someone has to spin it to make it into a yarn. And finally the yarn comes to the weaver, who puts it on the loom and weaves. Okay, the weaver has his own set of skills. Everyone has their own set of skills. It's not one person doing it. It's an ecosystem. It's like every person in the community has a role to play.
Right. In the community. Okay.
Yeah. And this is one example I gave you of textile or a fabric. And if you look at all these practices, they were never have been a practice as a livelihood. It was a practice because they had certain rituals and practices that brought this knowledge or practice into play. Like, otherwise, most of them were farmers.
Right.
They would farm.
Right.
They're not weaving every day 9 to 6 like a job.
Right.
Okay. They do these activities when they're not farming. Farming was the main predominant practice because that was food and that's what they had to do. And they had all these rituals and practices which traditionally was put into place to make it more social as a community building activity. Otherwise, we would have been like gatherers and hunters for the rest of our lives. Right? This was basically an evolution of human beings and how societies happened, how social activities created these practices. And these practices led to defining a particular way of life, depending on where you are situated in the geographical location of the planet. Right? You had
in a
access
nutshell,
to...
you just said, you are essentially saying that the practice of coming up with creating an ecosystem in the community to practice crafts is a cornerstone for civilization to have evolved.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't look at crafts like that, to be very honest. I think that's a very interesting take.
Because for me, a craftsman was a designer before designers and architects came into existence. Who made those temples or who made those textiles? Did a designer go and make them? No. Or an architect went there? No.
It's a bunch of people who committed to it.
There were a bunch of people with different skill sets and understanding of knowledge, and they put things together, and that become their knowledge base and skill base, which was recognized by that particular community of people, by maybe that particular family. Maybe, I don't know, but that's how it might have evolved.
Right.
Into various things. Yeah.
That's an interesting dimension. I mean, I will actually take this particular understanding that I received from you right now. I didn't think about it like that. I mean, and I'm looking at pyramids and I'm looking at Mayan structures, which we don't know much about. And I'm looking at things that we are discovering that we can't connect the dots back to who actually made them, thousands of years old and being discovered now. And even the dimension of crafts as an iconic centerpiece in the house or something to be hung at the wall changes, because then you're looking at it. One aspect is what you just introduced as a cornerstone. The second aspect is the fact that they are in some sense the original designers and very, very empathetic to the requirement of a community or a set of people. Or else they may have come up with something, but it would not have left a trace behind for us to discover today. So let's say they were the original designers, wherein they were able to feel the need of a certain set of people. The third dimension that I also see from what you're sharing right now is that they did not have a certain specific domain. It could be construction of something we wear. It could also be planning a city. The template would have been the same. Group of people need to stay in a certain place with a certain set of requirements and geography and threats and availabilities of material, and you make the best out of them, and a few people come together and give a solution of a township, of a village, of a template. The format is the same. We may not call it craft. We may call it old architecture or give it some name, in a certain domain. That also would be the same, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at whatever, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, whatever we are finding till now, the template of developing that or designing that may not have been different, right?
Yeah. No.
They were the people, they felt a need. Some of them, they had differential skill sets. They came together. They respected each other's skill set and abilities. There was need and they saw what was available, brought it together and say, okay, this is how it is. I have a question wherein I think I'm jumping the gun, but I'll come straight to you. I know for a fact that you are working with multiple crafts. I will come back to where we were talking as well, but now I'm getting curious about this. So I'm just bringing it to the prematurely in some sense. When you, as Sandeep Sangaru, curious about all of these things, go to a place like, let's say, Tripura, known for its bamboo craft and all of that. How do you fit in and then come up with something new? Is one dimension to the question, is something that I'm curious about. Because I think that's information. I think there's a code there.
Yeah. Again, I was about to come to that. Tripura and bamboo and all that. Yeah. So the journey of this documentation happened. I came back and having chai with Mr. Ranjan. And he said, Sandeep, would you like to go to Tripura
right,
to teach some craftsmen a course on drawing?
On drawing, okay.
Technical drawing and freehand drawing, kind of. So Mr. Ranjan was setting up this institute in Tripura called Bamboo and Cane Development Institute, BCDI.
Yeah.
And NID was given that project to set up the program. And it was a very unique program because the program was meant for the artisans, for the craftspeople who are already skilled in their domain, to upskill them with newer knowledge, to interface with the outside world.
Wow.
So the program was designed in such a way that I, as a designer, go and want to work with a craftsman, how do I do that? Because the way a traditional artisan or a craftsman works is very different from how a designer or an architect works.
Was it Mr. Ranjan's take on things that you need to equip the person with the skills to reach out for themselves? Teach fishing.
So when the program was set up, because it was a government project, government would come up with this thing to set something up in a place. As Ranjan was heading it, he had his own vision of what this institute has to be. Instead of it being a program of designing younger artisans to become designers, he chose to upskill the existing artisan craftsmen so that they can engage with the outside world and bring their craft to the next level. Which I was puzzling, because when I was documenting for the book, I would see things, what they were making for the market and what they would use in their homes.
Was there a difference?
Yeah, because what they use for the homes are functional objects that they use every day.
Right? And what they were making for the market?
Market would be something very different, which is made for the market, because there is someone who's coming and placing an order for them to be positioned in a market. It could be decorative lamp or a wall piece or an exclusive piece of textile or something. But the same technique, same materials, they would make things for themselves also.
Right.
Because they had access to that. Why can't they? Won't be making a very elaborate one. It could be very simple object, which had actually evolved over many generations of making, and reached a point that you cannot design a better object than that.
You couldn't better it.
So those things you don't see in a craft bazaar or a craft emporium. That was the access to craft. Right. You won't find a decent lota, like what when Eames came to India and wrote this India report, and he took lota as an icon, as a symbol of Indian design. Even I didn't understand what he meant when I read that report. But when I was documenting meeting with people, I would see this object everywhere. But we don't see it as a product that you gift or put it on the wall, or it's an everyday object.
And sorry, I'm sidestepping here. Where is this Eames report? Because you are not the first person mentioning this. Right? Is it available somewhere? Is it there?
It should be there online, Eames India report.
I have Googled it. I haven't found it.
Okay.
I've had summaries of it. Does NID have a copy of it?
I'll give you a copy.
Eames report.
PDF copy.
That'll be lovely. So you got to see whatever Eames talked about in this India report, that things that they were using were a lot more authentic and that had taken years of evolution.
Not authentic in terms of Indian design, like as a product. Like I'm trying to create this parallels of a practice, that what you see in an urban space, which represents Indian traditional crafts, is very different from a craft or an object that has been used by that particular community who makes that particular craft.
Got it.
Right.
I actually use the word authentic from that point of view, that evolve ke aaya hai, and that's still relevant and they're continuing to use it. But when that craft travels to an urban home, it may have lost context and the relevance is very different. So that way it sidesteps, but it's not a process of the evolution.
Yeah, because I think the connection that we may always make with craft is elaborate and to celebrate everything, and you put everything into it, and it becomes very decorative, which you don't want to use it every day. You want to place it on a pedestal and appreciate it for its art.
Right.
So craft evolved after a point of time as to address that, rather than to be used in the kitchen or in a everyday object scenario, functional thing. And as an industrial designer doing furniture and all that, I was wondering, why can't we take these practices and make objects that would be mainstream functional objects for everyday use, not decorative, not as a gifting product, not an occasional wearing or occasional textile that you wear for a function or a festival. Why can't I wear that particular shari every day? Or why can't I use that brass object to drink water from every day.
Okay. I'm trying to put into words what I'm hearing from you. Again, are you saying that what you were wondering about is, like the craftsmen themselves used these craft products as a part of their everyday lives, which is to say that it's integrated with their life. Their lives would not be as graceful without them.
Yeah.
Unlike how you typically see crafts in an urban context, which is symbolic.
Yeah.
But I'm not dependent on it. My interdependence or my relationship with crafts is I elevate it and keep it as a symbol of where I come from.
Yeah.
Unlike in the context of craftsmen itself, where their interdependency with their product is a lot more integrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Right? This is the difference. And you were wondering that, ye kyun nahi kar sakta main? Did I get that right? As a sense? Okay. Please continue. So, I'm just ensuring that I'm understanding.
So as a designer, I was wondering that. Why this kind of gap exists in the whole ecosystem of crafts.
This is while you were doing that research for the book.
Yeah, while I was doing the research for the book. Because in the research also there were a lot of things that we need to find out, like at what stage is a craft in its life?
Yeah.
Because crafts are languishing every day.
Right.
How many stages do you think does it have?
It's basically, I meant was the practitioners of crafts are not wanting to continue practicing that particular craft. So crafts are disappearing.
That's a genuine problem that we are facing today. And a lot of them have gone, they've all died out. A lot of them have died out now. Like carpentry also, the way you're doing it is really not the foray that people want to get into. In spite of an Indian society having a caste-based system, or more than a caste-based system, occupational-based caste system. So, wherein a carpenter, his family continues to do carpentry, an artisan, a sculptor, his family continues to do the sculpting. In that context also, Indian art and artisans are dying out. The art itself is dying out. So, so you were talking about this. And we are seeing this as a genuine problem today.
I wouldn't call this a problem. I'm looking at from a different point of view. Because the world is getting smaller, everyone has their own aspirations. So we have access to knowledge. And the craft is disappearing because of many things that happen in between. A craftsman or a traditional, I would call it practitioners of traditional material culture or something like that, rather than a craft. Craft is more associated to skill. And over a period of time in between, few generation, the craftsmen were mostly used for their skill, not for their knowledge. Right.
Okay.
So, and traditionally, crafts were practiced because it was a way of life. So the need was very immediate, and it's with the community or around the community. So people would buy those things and use it for the daily life. Then slowly, it become more like an heritage. And things evolved. And
like, for example, pottery. Now, clay pots were a necessity at one point of time. So they made it as a utility, those objects. But now with the invent of aluminium, iron, and a lot of other materials for utensils, now the clay utensils are not being used as much. So now ceramic artistry or ceramic pots has become a decorative element, and that becomes a thing that, okay, this somebody who is doing ceramic material, ceramic art, it's more of a decorative purpose and not a utilitarian.
No, Rajesh, I think he's mentioning a slightly different point, and I'm curious about this, which is, see, to you and me as lay people, when we look at anything, pottery, wood, the fact that you gave a carpentry example is because we are relevant in that field. And we see that the Vishwakarmas, who are the traditional, so-called carpenters, and there's a definition of a community and caste as well. Saying Vishwakarma community, मंदिर बनाती है और carpentry का काम करते हैं traditionally.
All of that is
so it's casticized from that point of view as well. Their kids are not continuing to practice the craft. Is that a problem? It is a problem only when, again, my point of view here, only when there's a dearth of it. Right? But is the craft dying for that? I don't think so. We can say that. On the contrary, I would be more curious about what he was saying, that I don't look at it as a problem. There was inheritance built in at one point of time where the son overtook what the father was doing.
Because the development itself inventions were slow.
No, we'll get to that. Get to that. I'm not jumping into that. I'm just saying, so what we have discussed so far is a community tha. They had a requirement. Some people in the community had differential skill sets, and they came forward to say that we will come together, find a solution to be able to cater to this requirement of the community. So a very healthy ecosystem, interdependency got created with the people who were solving a community problem. And that we see, the symbol of that is a certain craft form, art form, all of that, right? It marries multiple things. Availability, requirement, empathy with the so-called consumer in today's parlance, skill sets of people. It's an ecosystem. It's well balanced, right? Cut short several 100,000, whatever timeline you want to give to it. What we see is now it's become a symbol in an urban situation. But what he found out was the fact that when he goes back to the house of the craftsman, those craftsmen continue to practice those craft forms, and whatever they are doing, that product is still a lot more relevant to them than it being a decorative symbol. Right? Is that a problem? One way of looking at it is problem hai bhaiya, craft is dying out and meka hua. The other thing that he was mentioning, and I think we cut him short at some place, is that it is not a problem. If it is not a problem, then there is a gap somewhere that needs to be looked at it differently. That is what I wanted to dig with him. If it is not a problem, then why is it that you and I, staying in Bangalore, will hang a piece and say that, hey, I love this. But it has no more relevance in my life. But when I go to the house of that person, somewhere in the corner village in Andhra Pradesh, it's a part of their everyday life. They're fishing with that and bringing that basket home and drying it out and putting the fish out, whatever. Just a narrative in my head, or anywhere for that matter. If this is not a problem, what is obvious is there's a relevance issue. What else?
It's a relevance issue of like what Rajesh was talking about. One is, the intervention of industrialization. Industrial evolution came in with products, replacing some functional products at a much affordable prices or cheaper. Those things took over. At the same time, craft stopped evolving. The evolution of that practiced kind of got stunted because other things were brought into place, which replaced those traditional ways of making. Because one was, it was time consuming, because that was the justification of making things an industrial way. Right? You get me what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So like fishing nets. I mean, we have
nets or textile mills, textile from the mills to handloom. So, of course, so there was a disparity between affordability also happened, of course. But then when I've said it stopped evolving, because for any practice to move further, it has to evolve. Addressing the present changes happening around, right? And that's what design is all about. You're solving a problem to address a present need. So in craft practices, what happened was that evolution didn't happen. So when the evolution didn't happen, as a community, as a society, people started to say, okay, this is something unique and we need to preserve it. The practice was only limited to trying to preserve it. So when you're trying to preserve it, you're trying to preserve it at the state that it was.
Time as a construct stops.
So it becomes like a construct. Like if I go and work with a community and say, let's make this bamboo chair. Okay. But this bamboo chair has nothing to do with the traditional object that they made, right? There's no resemblance. But can I call it a crafted product?
It is a crafted product.
It is, right? Is it traditional product?
It
may
could
or
be.
may not be.
It's debatable.
Yeah. But for me, it's a traditional product because the knowledge of working with that material comes from the people who understand the material the best.
Mm.
Okay. When I said earlier, people were used for the skill, not for the knowledge. I had the idea of making something, but I didn't have the skill or knowledge to make it. Okay. When I drew something and I worked with them, because it was a process which happened at BCDI when I discovered bamboo, but I'll come to that later in detail. But to make the point, if I drew a line of a chair or something and I was working with artisan craftsman, he said, Sandeep, let's use this species of bamboo for this component. I said, wo kya hota hai? Well, I was learning from them. I just drew a sketch. I had no idea what species of bamboo to use. Then they informed me that, okay, for basketry, we use one particular species. For building houses, we use that bamboo. For making bridges, we use this bamboo. For making bamboo shoot that we eat every day is a different species. So that knowledge.
तेरे को अगली बार जब बदबू आएगी ना बैम्बू शूट में स्पीशीज बदल के देखना
खा नहीं पाएंगे
No,
sorry I couldn't stop with the joke.
Taste different. Every species has their own taste. Some will have bitter, some will have sweet, and some will have that other smell.
But that's knowledge inheritance.
That's knowledge inheritance. Now, that's a traditional knowledge.
Right.
And that knowledge has not happened in studying in a college or a school.
Right.
It's through practice. When I'm saying it stopped evolving, if you stop practicing a certain craft, it won't evolve. Like when they made this chair, the first thing that they all told me was, Sandeep, हमने bamboo को ऐसे कभी इस्तेमाल नहीं किया. We're trying to use bamboo in a different format. So, because they were doing baskets and they were only asked to make baskets, so they kept making baskets.
They did not connect it to another product.
Because it at a point of time, it just become when you start preserving something, like a practice or a heritage or a culture, you try to just replicate the last best thing that was made with that craft.
That's preservation.
That's preservation. You try to just keep it in that quality, in that form. Okay, Kanchivaram sari has to be in that count and it has to be of that cotton or that silk or gold. Or bamboo basketry from Nagaland has to be like this, and the bamboo basket from Tripura has to be like this.
The idea is stagnant.
I cannot make the Nagaland basket in Tripura, then it becomes something else. So the context of the space, the community which made, had a certain language, certain quality, certain formal feature, certain species of bamboo that was used to make that particular basket. So when you try to preserve a craft, it becomes very of having everything proper, perfect. It has to be made with that certain way.
Evolution having stopped. And preservation is keeping things where they are. All the elements in the block as they are. And when we preserve something, it's not getting better. We try to keep, we say, in some sense, I would go to the extent of saying that we say authenticity is about, like your example of Kanjivaram. उतना थ्रेड काउंट होना चाहिए, उतना वजन होना चाहिए, वैसे कलर्स होने चाहिए, वैसा वीव होना चाहिए. How does it evolve? I find that a very exciting dimension of thought because in some sense, would it be wrong for me to say actually that evolution requires you to break establishment? And when you do that, it's going to be disorienting. Right and wrong is a matter of opinion. So from that point of view, is that what your definition would be to what you are doing to crafts? I'm not trying to deify you at all. I'm just saying that you're working with crafts. But when you look at where you add value, would you say that that is what you bring to the fore?
Basically, if I look at my thought process, I'm not adding any value, nor I'm trying to bring something to another level. All I'm trying to do on a very personal journey is wanting to explore, and from my past understanding and knowledge of my background and my education as a designer, as a creator, as trying to solve problems for every day, needs, and my love for making with hand and handcrafting led me to this domain where I found people who enjoy doing things with hand, which we popularly know them as craftsmen or craftspeople or culture that been practiced. And in the process, I discovered that my love for making by hands and the whole process of how traditionally things were made had a connection. And for me, the craft is about, or design is all about evolution. Things are changing every day, needs are changing every day because contextually we are moving forward in many ways. And the moment you start preserving something, you are not moving forward as a practice. So, how do we take it forward? We can only take it forward, from my point of view, is to keep experimenting and pushing the boundaries. And that's how human beings have been. And at some point, we also contradict ourselves because when we start doing this thing of culture based preservation, we are not taking things forward. But we can take an iPhone forward, but we cannot take a bamboo basket from Nagaland forward. Why is that so? Why a pashmina has to be in that form for it to be a pashmina?
Should we?
That's the argument. That's where I come from.
Right.
So my work somehow kind of reflects that to be different because I'm working with the same set of knowledge and skills. And that was the question when I asked, my chair is a crafted chair or it's a traditional product. It may not be a traditional product, but the understanding and the knowledge that it comes from is very traditional. Maybe it may work, it may not work, but I think it is something that we all need to see and push from our comfort zone and take it differently. Like the chair you're sitting on is from Channapatna.
Right.
But we associate Channapatna to toys.
Right.
Colorful, lacquered, turned wood toys. I went to Channapatna to make something colorful and playful, to explore the idea of working with that scale rather than making a chair.
Right.
But when I started interacting with the craftsmen and showing them sketches, which I had ideas of exploring with them, they said, Sandeep, these are very nice, but we don't make much out of it for our livelihoods. We have to make hundreds of them to make a tangible revenue. Because toys are small and they're sold at a price which are affordable. Like they have to make many in terms of scale of production.
Yeah. The business of it demands that.
Yeah. Because Channapatna also as a context is on a highway and people come there a lot to buy things. So it is in a very commercial space and a domain.
Right.
And since it has been called the toy town or a toy city, and we associate it with toys and colorful lacquered craft, the association kind of defines that particular craft. So I went there, interacted with them. They said, can you do something that can be more sustainable for us to keep practicing the craft? Means better
sustainable revenue for practicing the crafts. And now you've also put in the context of, you're speaking about it for the first time, sustainability from the point of view of sustainable for practicing the craft, but financially sustainable as well. It gets them better revenue.
That's the sustainability. The crafts are languishing because they're not able to sustain it.
Yeah.
In terms of
it's not making business sense anymore.
Yeah. Well, for them.
Yeah.
Because in between it become a business. Because
of course.
It kind of translated to become a mainstream business because they started catering to a different market.
Yeah.
So that's where innovation kind of didn't move further. There might have been innovation. Like in Channapatna, they were making very traditional toys for Dasera. During Dasera, they make these toys. But if you go back in time, they used to make beads, just beads, colorful beads. And that was the product. Then it became toys. That was another stage of evolution because the toys were another diversion in the cultural aspect to celebrate a certain festival and context. And then the toys took another form as an evolution to become more contemporary toys. There were aeroplanes, there were rockets, there were a lot of things that happened.
Actually, I've kind of witnessed that.
And things. So it was not a traditional toy, but it was also brought in from the thing of that context of something that is being associated with that particular craft. So I went, met them, came back. I was thinking, what can be done? What can be done? Should I make larger toys? Like a bigger toy, maybe like a Lego, which would become like people have to buy lots of them to make something. When that would need a lot of more interventions,
precision levels,
and scalability and stuff. It could be a good fun exercise, but people have tried that. But then I started doing research a bit of what people have already done around the world and with similar technique and making, because these traditional practices are similar all over the planet, all over the different cultures if you look at. So I'm a furniture designer. I thought this is an interesting challenge. Can I make a chair out of smaller components? So I started sketching, understanding, okay, the limitation is I cannot turn more than 6 inches, not wider than 2 inches. And that was the limitation. And the object goes onto the lathe and comes out finished. There's no in-between process.
Yeah.
So that is the crafts I wouldn't call it limitations, but it's an interesting...
It's a frame within which you have to work.
Frame which we have to work.
Yeah. That's a given, not more, not less.
Not more, not less. So with that limitation, I came up with this design. And when I made that, I thought, oh, well, maybe people won't like it. It's really... out of the context of even a furniture. But I made the prototype. I showed it to people and people loved it. So now this chair has almost 108 different components coming together.
This
one.
Wow, okay.
Only turned components apart from the cushion and all that. And with that much material and that much time, they could have made 100 toys. So basically it replaced making 100 toys to one chair. So if I place one chair order, it takes equivalent to like at least 100 toys.
Viable as a craft for the person.
But that was the challenge that they gave me. When I went there, can you make something? And me being what I do, came up with a chair as an idea.
So like, for example, if I'm a Channapatna, an artisan at Channapatna, and if I'm making, say, 100 toys to earn 10,000 rupees, now I'll be able to do that by doing 4 of these chairs.
Yeah, or maybe one chair. Yeah.
Maybe one chair because it's 108.
Yeah.
And how much repeatability? Like, how many components are similar?
All of them are similar, mostly. Only the size matters a bit, length. It's a similar component. The whole idea is that, it's one component.
Yeah. So that means they are making 2 to 3 even if you consider size as different variables, 2 to 3 sizes into so many components.
Yeah.
So that makes the work simpler as well.
Yeah. But I had no clue it's going to work or not. It's as a design, as a concept.
Right.
As would it bring that kind of business to them or not? But it was an experiment.
But I like the equation that you're mentioning. Instead of making 108 toys, you give them a chair. There's 108 components unko turn karna hai.
Before that, I was trying to make this example because of the point of experimenting. We associate certain craft with a certain thing.
Correct.
And it has to be that.
And there's a big gap there.
If you have to preserve an art form or a particular artist, like you said, the evolution, if it is, it dies out a natural death because after a while, neither are there takers for it, nor is the technology or that particular art, the craft and the art form relevant, not art form, but the craft relevant anymore. Because with the invent of and betterment of technology that keeps happening.
Industrialization.
Now even this, you can do it out of CNC and lathe and turning and all of that. But again, it's the art, the craftsmanship and the artists, not the artists, but the artisans, that technique that is there. Like you said, bamboo bending. Now, certain things cannot be done with machines, however complicated, complex the machine might be, or however capable the machine might be. A few things because of the natural tendency and the capacity of the material, it allows you to do only that much. And that you get to know only through experience, and your hands can only understand that. So it's very interesting take that you have, and it's very nice to see that how a particular product or a particular style or of the design and stuff can engage more and more craftsmen and artisans to evolve themselves as well. Because like we were discussing, there's a lot of these crafts forms that are dying out, and there is always this thing that, okay, oh, this is gone and that is not there. Somebody who is making a traditional sculpture out of brass is not there anymore. But like you said, at the end of it, what, even if they're there, if you have thousands of such people, how are they going to earn money? How are they going to earn a living? So unless there is something really moving to the next level and the whole craftsmanship evolves, there is nothing that that needs to be done with that craft. So that was an interesting take on the thing. So I just had couple of things to just go back and forth on a few things. So while you were doing the research for the book, and you did the research on the handmade crafts across the country, what made you focus only on furniture? I mean, you did the course in NID, but your specialization is mostly chairs and products, but a lot of chairs you have. So, what made you focus only on this and not other forms of furniture?
Did you focus on that?
No, it just happened
Okay.
to be an object of seating, because it kind of brings in a lot of things together. One is as a functional need, and technically as a structure. It is a structure in itself which has to bear a load, which is, and has to hold someone comfortably. So there are a lot of parameters which kind of give you the challenge to do something in a scale that is manageable. So furniture is something that I can sit with a carpenter or a artisan and just build it. And why I do that? Because that kind of brings in a lot of things together. It engages everyone in the process. Like when I'm working with a craftsman, if I asked him to just do a carving or just turn these components, give it to me, they're not engaging themselves to push the boundaries of the craft. Now, when something like this comes to them, it's different. They have not done this before. Yeah. So the engagement is even more. So they come up with ideas on their own. Sandeep, agar aisa karenge to maybe it will be better. Because they know the shortest way to make
That's
it.
Their experience and knowledge both.
Their knowledge they try to, because I might be thinking in one direction, because I don't have that knowledge of many generations of practicing that. I might have the idea, okay, I can experiment, I can explore. It may work, it may not work. So I'm still in a doubt. But once I show them a sketch or a drawing or something, they will figure out, like the bamboo example of, we should use this species of bamboo for this component. So while I was doing this, maybe they said it would be difficult to achieve that consistency, because when they do turning, it's a freehand turning.
Yeah.
Because for them, each toy is a different toy. Here, each component is coming next to each other.
Yeah.
So you
they
need
can't
to
have too much variation.
You cannot take too much variations. So how do you achieve that? So they devise their own way of doing it. So for the turning, they use these tools. So they made the tool in this particular shape. So finally it will fit there and you'll get that angle. I would have given them a laser cut template to kind of see every time. From my way of thinking. For them, it is easier for them to have something accessible.
Right.
And easy to kind of keep a control on that.
Yeah.
And they would do their own ways of doing, because they've been doing that. So they start engaging from a different perspective altogether. And that collaboration is what makes me keep doing things in a way.
Because you mentioned two things. In the process of your conversation, one of the points you mentioned number of times. And I'm curious about that. But let's go back to the one before that. This is when you're choosing academics and things like that. You mentioned that while you've done mechanical engineering, you know everything. You read this line about it says everything from a safety pin to an aeroplane, and everything is there in between. Design. I said, "Bhai, ये तो यार बहुत बड़ा bandwidth है, मतलब इतना नहीं करना." So you chose furniture. Right? It's something which is a lot more contained. I would not like to use the word limited, but contained when it comes down to process or It's not a safety pin to an aircraft, so to say, but it looks, there's a domain to it, there's a framework to it. The other thing that you also spoke about and mentioned in different contexts is the idea of scale. Like even safety pin to an aeroplane, it's just too many things that I will need to know. Whereas in furniture, I would need to know one thing very, very well. So it enabled you to make a choice saying that नहीं यही करना है, इतना सब कुछ नहीं, मैं इसमें हाथ गंदा करेगा, इसी में रहने वाला. So there's an aspect of scale and choice making. The other thing also that you mentioned is that you like the idea of, you gave that example of that fabric as well, कि कोई cotton grow करता है, कोई ये करता है, वो करता है, and the whole collective coming together and becoming a collaborative enterprise. These are two things that you personally kind of were inclined to. So I would like to understand this aspect, because in some sense they sound diametrically opposite, that you want to work with an ecosystem which is larger in some sense. When you talk about scale, hey, it's a lot of people. It's not I am doing what I feel like doing it और मैं अपने कमरे में बैठ के बना रहा हूँ. You're talking about the idea and you wanting to work with skills and knowledge of other people and kind of creating that collaborative. The other side, you're also talking about scale in a more contained manner. How do they marry each other? Doesn't typically business say that अगर एक product सही है चल 100 बना के दिखा? That's the template that it goes in. So where is that thin line in some sense is what I am hearing. You are not saying one is wrong or better than the other. You are saying that I am that person who works with a certain framework.
No, that's an interesting question to delve into because I never thought about it before.
You are not saying कि मेरे को 1 crore का piece बनाना है. You are saying that one good piece and I should be able to make certain set of pieces of this.
My objective is also not that.
Yeah.
My objective of what I do is basically experiment and explore. I'm not looking it from a business point of view either. I think if I look at from the point of the market or the consumer, I will not be doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Because the number games comes into play. Because the moment you start looking into a market, like any other industrially designed product where you design and produce for a certain segment of the market or market in general, there is a certain need you feel that you can exploit for you to grow a business.
Right. That's your audience.
Yeah.
That's your customer and you define your customer.
But at the underlying thing, whoever is making it wants to make money. He wants to grow the business, make it bigger.
Right.
In that process, what's happening is we are not innovating. In the context of our country, in particular, if I'm coming from India, studying, having a design background, and we always look up to Western designs as inspiration because we don't have anything that is homegrown, home built. And that, I don't know where I'm going, but the whole idea is that what I'm trying to say is once you look into a market, your goals are very different.
Okay.
Different in terms of you are trying to create something that would sell. When I'm creating this, I had no idea if it's going to sell or not. I just wanted to make it and see if it works or not for me or for the craftsman in terms of pushing the boundaries
to ask.
of
I'm kind of
craft.
cutting you off. If I'm hearing you correct, then this question is relevant. It's like a chicken and an egg kind of a question in some sense. Yeah. After having done this, it got you an award as well. This one?
No, I didn't send it to any awards. Yeah.
But this is, I mean, one can see this on Google as well, which means it's got some eyeballs and somebody found it good enough to be able to discuss it, and which is why you probably get to see it more often.
Yeah.
How do you balance?
It has been one of our best selling products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if design or creative output is unable to incorporate the relevance or the cornerstone of business in it, doesn't a lot of good design or innovation die because of this reason? धंधा नहीं कर पाया, वो डिजाइन मर गया.
It does. But again, it's an ecosystem for a business to grow. Like a craftsman can make a product. he is not capable of selling it in the market.
Sure.
Like as a creator, my strengths are limited to certain domain. Okay. I started this business because I wanted to kind of make it like a proof of concept.
Right.
From the idea to the market, so that the craftsmen I work with could understand the idea of innovation.
Sure.
Or idea of experimenting something new, which people would appreciate and buy. Or there is a need for a certain kind of craftsmanship in a product or a design value. It's a very complex answer, but what I'm trying to say is, of my experience of working with artisans for a very long time now, whenever I go with an idea to a craftsman and show him a drawing or a scale, the first thing he'll say, Sandeep, ye mehenga ho jayega.
Right.
That's a standard problem with
No,
anything that.
No, but that's what he would have always been said. No, every time he tried to do something different.
महंगा हो जाएगा. महंगा क्यों हो रहा है? महंगा हो जाएगा तो क्या होगा? What will happen if things get expensive? People won't buy it. So once you're starting to cater to a market, you are trying to make things of less value or cheaper. The two things. One is value and cheap. The two
less design in the to be.
So one is there are many contests. Like it depends on the market. You make something affordable, or you make something cheaper, or are you creating something of value? The many ways you can look into how do you position a product, right? If you buy a Hermes or a Louis Vuitton bag, which is right now in the context of being made in China for $600 but sold for $35,000.
Right.
No, there is a perception or perceived value and a value. What I'm trying to say is, महंगा हो जाएगा. It's going to get expensive. So when I work with an artisan, he said, why should we put in this effort into making a product where no one is going to buy it?
Hold on.
So you stop experimenting and innovating, and you make products which are made with that certain skill set that could make that product affordable.
I'm finding this interesting as an aptitude, as an attitude. And I think it's a big one if this is what it is. What I'm concluding from what you just said is that, Bashab, I am not saying that innovation and business should not go hand in glove, but you probably see a sense of compromise, of value, when that becomes the prime focus, that I am designing something that has to make business sense. On the contrary, you are saying that you might as well own a product and focus on how can I make it valuable in a more emotional sense of things than from a price context. As long and that inspires you and allows you to continue to innovate. If you hold on to that space, business, making the economics of it or the relevance of business on it, over a period of time, you have found more success here than this model. The first model is, I will design only for business. If there is no business, design ka koi point hi nahi hai. That's one ideology. The other ideology is, hey, my job is to find a way to innovate, right? And that is what I'm trained to do. I will constantly look at places that I can make something better, make something, add to evolution, I'll push the envelope of creativity, of evolution. As long as I can hold that space, I'm not saying things will always work, but that has a better chance of evolution over a period of time, of course, of evolution, of adding value, of being perceived as valuable, and business will happen with a few eggs that will fall off the crack, and we will lose those good products as well. And that's all right. For example, this chair that I'm sitting on, you innovated within the framework of reference that you were given. A craftsman does one product at so-and-so thing. So in your context of things, you were bringing great value to that ecosystem of craftsmen. Ki instead of doing 108 products, this guy will make one chair with repeat pieces or whatever it is. It makes him do better, hopefully, if the chair sells. And you have seen, not focusing on business also, this is one of your better selling products. So in your belief of, I will focus on innovation and not let the business requirement ride me, you have found better value in your practice. It allows you to practice more freely.
Yeah. But it's in the context I am working with, right?
Right.
See, value can come from an industrially designed product also.
Sure.
Mass manufactured. Right. You can innovate there also. And there is innovation, because there has to be more innovative when you're making a mass-produced object, because there are more responsibilities there in terms of a lot of other things, which I don't want to delve into right now in terms of that. But when I started my practice, I was positioning myself within the crafts community, the traditional material culture of making things, right? And the value of those products were not appreciated. So the craftsman who was practicing that craft didn't see value in his own knowledge and skill, because they were asked to make a certain product for a certain price or a cost.
I actually heard you. Yeah, go ahead, finish it.
If I go to an artisan and say, make me a basket of this size and this dimension, which should not cross more than 10 rupees per basket, I need 1,000 pieces. And the artisan has livelihood dependent on that, right? He has no other venues to earn a livelihood. So he'll take up that order. Will he put 100 rupees worth of effort into making that basket, or will he put 10 rupees worth?
10 rupees worth of effort.
What is happening in the process?
The craft stays where it is.
It doesn't say it deteriorates even further.
Right. Because it's further trying to make it easier.
You're not valuing it. Yeah. It becomes like a transaction.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. And that's why the younger generation is not keen to take it forward. That's another debate to work on.
Right.
But if you have to generate value, you need those 100 baskets or 1,000 baskets. Because that came from a market need. If I make this basket and take it to a certain market, people won't buy, which is around 10 rupees or around that price. Now, it all depends on how you position it.
Right. Okay. That's the value aspect in it, right?
But to position it, you need to bring in a certain craftsmanship also to it.
Sure.
Now, Indian craft has, for a longer time in between, was associated with something which is not consistent.
Yeah, so one dimension of it.
People didn't appreciate handcrafted objects from India. Whereas they will appreciate something coming from Vietnam or Bali or from China or
Indonesia,
Japan,
whatever.
Or Japan. Of course, we have Western countries where we have other things. So, like if you look at Japanese product, so it's of high value. It's when you see it, you feel wow. Why is that doesn't exist in India? Because the value that you give to that particular product, like as a community, as a culture, if I'm buying something in Japan, you're willing to pay that much to have that object or that craft or whatever it is. But India, it was the other way around.
We get to negotiate here. There you can't even think about it.
Yeah. So it's like, how do we deal with this situation, right? Are we going to do a business out of it? Are you going to push the boundaries of the craftsmanship? How are you going to do it? So I had no clue. I had no answers. I enjoyed the process of co-creating with craftspeople.
Who's your ideal client? Who buys from you? Or whom do you make for?
I don't have an ideal client. I wouldn't say I work for myself, and as a designer, my client is my artisan or my craftsman.
So
can I bring value back to his life? Or can I bring in for him to see his own skill and knowledge in a different perspective, that he values it more than he used to? Can I bring him a little change of perceiving, looking at his own knowledge? कि हाँ मैं जो कर रहा हूँ उसमें कुछ है value. That's one point. One is also negotiating with them to experiment with me, because they are always reluctant to do something new. How do you break the ice? And no one is investing in that process. I'm investing my time, my money. They're investing their knowledge, their skill. The outcome is unpredictable.
So conversation in the last 15 minutes, as I realize, is what we usually do. The format is we do it for a business potential and create a business out of it.
Three things. Sandeep has already mentioned this thing.
No, so I'll tell you what I'm realizing. I haven't concluded that. But since you asked this question, in some sense, I'm speaking on his behalf and he can correct me. What I see him constantly do is, if you give him a set of coordinates, right? Coordinates बोले थे कि इंसान है, उसके पास एक ability है, right? He's got some kind of a basic skill to do something. Another person with another skill to do something.
He's
got
looking at a community level and not at a
No.
level.
I'm just saying, if you give him a set of coordinates, Sandeep Sangaru is constantly trying to see how is it that I can look at each of their abilities and constraints and come up with something that everybody can benefit out of.
But what is that benefit?
Yeah, so it changes from place to place, right? If you go back to his example of this, he found a way to be able to look at artisan क्या करता है, कितना limitation है, कितना काम करता है, क्या क्या कर लेता है, उसका जो फर्मा भी नहीं है, actually handled है. So that means how can I create consistency out of that? He understands all of that and he's come up with this chair. Now, I feel that if he had thought about my business kaise karega and created a business framework first and gone back to them, I don't know what would have happened, but we would not be having this chair.
Yeah, but isn't this the business? Like, this is
No, Baba, the approach point is different. The approach point is value. How many coordinates can I add value to? And if I'm unable to, can I keep it just there, but bring in value elsewhere?
But in terms of modern society, now you're trying to create a value for the artisan.
No. That is only one coordinate.
Yeah, so
artisan is one coordinate. Here it categorically created value for the artisan, right?
Yeah.
But has he not created value for the design community? He has.
Yeah, but then how is, like I said, in the modern society, he needs to earn money.
Sure. It's done with good business as well.
So, because we are talking about one of this. Now, we see there's a ton of things that are here.
Right.
There is this design. There is that light.
Right.
There is the table.
Right.
The jali behind you.
Right.
The three different designs.
Everything
of
that you're seeing around here.
Sitting on.
Yeah.
Now, this one.
Yeah.
Now, this particular design with the bamboo and that split where one portion is kept intact and rest is split and bent, and there's a lot of structural thought that goes into it.
Right.
And that maybe a regular artisan will not look into it, but as a design.
So let me take that question. There are, in some sense, we are talking about two approach points. One approach point is dhanda karna. Sustenance chahiye. What do I do to ensure that it sustains? From a business point of view, business marries two things: demand and supply, and find your relevance there. He is saying, all right. He's not disacknowledging that. He is saying, all right. That will, everything has to find a relevance. But I am equipped to be able to, there are two things I'm equipped with. Who am I? My inclinations. मेरे को हाथ से काम करना अच्छा लगता है. मुझे ये सारी चीजें समझ में अच्छा आता है. I like traveling and that's me. Mapped onto what I have trained myself to do better. Furniture is my domain, not product. Furniture, right? Crafts and what I see as crafts. What I dislike about crafts, the opportunity I see there. People, I like collaborating and working. He brings all of this to the fore and says that, okay, in the game of demand and supply, I will constantly churn out something that I feel has value and throw it there. Some will find relevance in supply and demand, some will not. And I'm okay with that.
But my question still remains. With all of this, it's still very simple, straightforward question.
Right.
How does Sandeep Sangaru make money?
I don't make money. I survive. I sustain myself.
See, because the amount of work that you're doing, that what we see here, it's like a research lab.
Yeah.
There is so much that you have. Now, from whatever we discuss, whatever you mentioned, whatever Bashop was mentioning, somebody is benefiting out of it. Is it a crafts, a community that is an artisan's community? In some ways, yes. But at the end of it, for that also to sustain, you have to sustain. You should be able to make money and then further sustain. The sustenance keeps going down down the pyramid. So how is that happening? Because you're doing a great job of whatever you're doing. You're a award-winning designer. I think you're one of the first few designers whom I've seen on international platforms like Design Boom. So when I searched your name, you are there. Your products are there. The design is there, and each of your design products, like this series that you have, that I think this is called the Truss-Me series. So that's a very popular series that is there across the net, which is available. And like this, you have a series of things. Now, even this chair, to me, as a designer and as an architect, I am in love with this.
Chori kar lunga. चोरी कर लूंगा आगे बोलना.
So, and so is your table, the way it is designed and stuff. So as an architect, I see the value in that. But as a consumer, do you see that there are people as consumers to take this? And because at the end of it, making money is a mandate in today's time. That's why I said in modern society.
No, I will not agree with that. I'll say we need to make money, but depends on where I look at what the importance of money is in my life, right? If it is a cornerstone of looking at my own life or reflecting on my own life, then that's a different situation. If it's a cornerstone, I'll go back to the example of another person who was very dear to me. My closest friend's father. He did not speak about money. Ex-defense guy. He spoke about quality of life and he used to badger me on it. And he treated me like his second son. And he's like, Bashop, sab kuch acha hai. Right? I don't have a problem with you wanting everything right here, right now. It's your generation. You want it like that. But where is the quality of life?
See, I'm not meaning like...
Just a sec. When I look at Rajan uncles, his name was Colonel Rajan as well, but he's ex-defense. So, it's now that I'm kind of scratching the surface of what he was saying. For him, life was richer in doing what he did. He became a restaurateur, ran it very successfully, closed it down because man kiya. Maza khatam ho gaya. He became an artist, he became a writer, he traveled 120 countries after retirement. He started writing for Lonely Planet. I mean, his life was vibrant, it was thriving. पैसे अंकल के पास कभी नहीं थे. पेंशन मिलता था.
कहीं से तो पैसे आते थे.
But I'm just saying that pension wasn't good enough to do what he was doing.
के लिए तो कहीं से तो पैसे आते थे.
Right. But I'm just saying that you couldn't evaluate his life from a financial point of view. You could only evaluate it from a richness point of view. And he saw it like that. So the question that I would have for him was, one question is direct question. Where does Sandeep Sangaru make money? I think that's a relevant question. The other question is, how does Sandeep Sangaru look at himself in the larger scheme of his craft and relevance to business at large? What role does he play there? These are two different questions. They may be married in some sense, but they're two different questions. So while I'm curious about what you asked, I'm more curious about the second thing. What is the model there? Right?
Yeah, see, so these are the things. Money, I don't mean like Ambani's.
No, I'm not talking about that as well. I'm just
even to have these 8 people, 10 people working with you, supporting the artisan, you need money. At the end of it, they also are doing it for money. Whether it is Channapatna guy who's making the toys, or whether it's somebody in Tripura, Nagaland, wherever making the baskets, they are doing it for a survival. Now, if the craft that they have and the skill that they have of weaving the basket, and if they're making the basket and selling, it's basically to earn money. Now, Sandeep has taken that craft and that knowledge, and because of his design background as a designer, that he does, he has taken that and evolved it to what it is today. Like we see this product or we see that product. Now that's a wood. That's a lot more in
I mean, you look around, you'll see it everywhere.
Yeah, there is research and development and design everywhere. So, but what is the larger cause that this is leading to? Is it to make money? Is it intellectual satisfaction? So, what are we looking at?
Why do we need to bucket it?
I don't know. I'm just discussing. So,
right. So the simple question of whatever I was trying to say is that in his head, what is his success model? But that question would not do justice, because typically a person looks at success with finances. Especially, we have seen over all these conversations that we are having that a person who's creative has a lot more, for the lack of a better term, complex a structure. He or she needs nourishment that's fulfilling. There is financial sustenance required. For some people, it is more important or less important. But the point is, there is a framework of fulfillment where finance may or may not be a cornerstone. That's what we have been seeing, right? Some people are like, "Paisa bhul jai, yaar, aa jayega." Some people are like, I do it for my nourishment. Some people are like, paisa nahi bane to karna hi nahi hai.
What's Sandeep's take on it?
Yeah, so I am curious about what is Sandeep's take on it, because all of these things we can't really say no to any of them.
Yeah.
But where does it play a role in his mind? What is his model of experiencing fulfillment in what he practices? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah.
Contentment, fulfillment is, according to me, a better term than success. I think it's a very limiting term. At least I feel it so.
Yeah. Yeah, people, a lot of people who see me from outside say you are very successful in terms of what we see. But what's happening behind the curtain is very different. So for me, no, it's a very, I cannot just put it in a definite sentence, but it's all about the journey that I shared till now. It's about exploring. And the moment I stop exploring, I feel being strangled.
You don't get to explore.
Don't have the freedom to explore and do things my way. My way would be like not to make it a goal. The moment it becomes like a specific thing that you want to achieve, it doesn't excite me anymore.
Right.
For me, the journey is very important rather than where I'm heading towards. So in that equation, I think when you put in a business model or a revenue model, it doesn't work. Then it becomes very constrained, right? It becomes like a goal. You need to achieve that. So my thought process is that it's very trying to keep it very simple, that I need to keep exploring, but I also need to make it sustainable for the people who are the stakeholders in that whole ecosystem that I'm working with. If I can sustain that, profits are not very important, but the idea is that, okay, I need to keep doing it. It's not like one show and it's over.
Right.
So my challenge when I started 15 years back till today, the whole goal, it has evolved. I have reached points where I thought, why am I doing this? I'm enjoying the process, but will I be able to sustain it in terms of monetary, or sustaining what I'm doing in terms of exploring and experimenting? But whenever I reach a junction like that, I encounter a person or a event or something which doesn't let me divert from what I'm doing. So there is a certain encouragement that comes, or certain support that comes. Okay, Sandeep, no, you should keep doing this. Otherwise, no one else would do that. I think there are people in my life who have kind of come in those specific junctions where I felt that money could be important. But those interventions let me, okay, no, what I'm doing or the way I'm exploring with the people I work with can bring in more value in terms of the point that you mentioned about the richness of your life. Richness not being enriched in terms of material richness, but richness of experiences, richness of knowledge, richness of kind of creating something new, which might see a value after many years, maybe not today. Because what I did when I started 15 years back, it was fun. I was young. I could do things. I could, live without a meal for 5 days or 6 days or 1 month. I could manage with bare necessities. But now I have a team of more than 25 people and I have to pay everything. So I need to think in a certain way to keep it in place, or I shut it down and move on to do something else if I'm finding it difficult. But I think over a period of time, what I've established is like if you go back in old times, like when we were in school, मैं दर्जी के पास जाके school uniform to
stitch ho gaya tha.
And we know the tailor.
Yeah.
And you know our style and the comfort and all that.
Yeah.
Right? Now we don't have that.
Yeah.
People are starting new ventures which are catering to that concept of tailoring your shirts or pants. But we grew up like that, right? Okay, अच्छा दर्जी है उसी के पास जाके हम सिएंगे. So my ecosystem has become like that. Okay, if you go to Sandeep, you'll get this, and no one else would give you that. So that has become my USP. So for me, that's my way of life.
Right.
And I think it got established slowly through various events that happened through these last few years. So I think as a business model, if I would do the same thing in a different country, it could have taken a different direction altogether. I don't know if I would have been in Europe, or maybe if I would have been in China, what would have happened. I never thought about that, but maybe in a different context, in a different ecosystem, it could have been very different.
Right.
In terms of a business, or in terms of knowledge generation, or in terms of innovation.
Right.
But I couldn't have done this nowhere else.
Right.
But in India, if I also look back from the other perspective. So I also do question myself, why am I doing this? Why here? If I do this somewhere else, will there be any differences or challenges or appreciation in a different way? Will it be comfortable for me to sustain it and make it much larger than what I'm doing right now? What are the different scopes? Those are something that I cannot answer, but these are something that I delve into in terms of trying to see, do I need to grow this and make it much larger? It's possible. I need to bring in investors to invest and convince them that this business can grow and we can do it. But once I do it, will it hold the philosophy on which it was established to continue to, when you make it grow bigger, it dilutes. So where do you stop it, or who's getting benefited? These are questions that are happening, but at the same time, you need to keep continuing doing what you're doing with your life for it to be sustainable. So from a personal point of view, it's a journey of exploring, trying to push the boundaries, trying to demonstrate that there is a potential and possibility to take our crafts or our knowledge to another level.
Right.
And yeah.
I think he's given a fair enough answer. I mean, I feel content with the answer from the point of view that he is saying that it is his practice is constantly creating things. And he will, if you put an agenda to him, Sandeep Sangaru ye karega, then he will not be able to practice. So in his freedom and in his practice is what he sees value in. So it is not so-called puritanically a business model, but that is what he has managed 15 years with, right? He does see the limitation of this model as well, in some sense, that it may have given him better financial returns if the context was different, but the context couldn't have been different because his nourishment lies here. The fact that he's working with these crafts and communities and all of these things, that is here. He couldn't have done the same thing in Europe. Maybe the product.
I wasn't. See, frankly, I'm not saying that I need an answer.
No, I'm not. I'm just. So now, we also represent people who listen to us, right?
We recorded with John Matthew.
Right.
Similar thing that we saw, but on a very different level.
No, we didn't see a similar thing.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Here it is creating with his own hands. There it's a collection of what all has been created by multiple people in John's place. John had a well-established business which he has left, and now he's retired or whatever he's doing. He's leading a life that he is leading. Sandeep, on the other hand, is involved with the creation. He is doing it. He is at it, building with his own hands, and he is creating the thing. Now, if I have another source of income which supports all of this, and I am focusing on this whole and soul, and there is something that is already feeding me and the team, which is fine, which, the tension of creating something is not there. I mean, you're doing it at a pace that suits you, but here you're also forced to take care of the rest of the people around you who are creating this for you.
It's a responsibility, liability, whatever you want to call it.
And to do that, that at least that cycle has to be on. Now, whether it is 10 lakhs, whether it is 20 lakhs, or whether it is 2 crores, 10 crores, 100 crores, whatever, that cycle has to go on. So to continue that cycle, and that contentment of whether it is a 10 lakh cycle or a 10 crore cycle, whatever that cycle might be, even to keep that cycle alive, that the whole, the actions have to happen, which he's already doing, which is happening. And we see all of this. Now, like I said, I also asked that, so who's your client? Who buys from you? So is it an individual who's going to buy? Is it an organization that buys? Or whom are you selling the products to? Or is it that you're just making them for your satisfaction, and as and when something comes by, that time you sell it? So how is that model working?
Yeah, it's a complicated situation, no? For me to kind of not make it a business, but still make it a business, because otherwise I cannot sustain. I don't have any other source of revenue coming in. And yeah, it is challenging every day for me to kind of that running behind my head to keep that cycle on. And how do I take it forward? Yeah, but I may not have an answer for that, because to simply put, you're right. How am I doing it? I don't know how am I doing it. I'm just doing it. It's just happening. Touch wood. That I'm able to sustain myself and my team over the years period of the time that we've been doing that.
Okay.
So it's basically it's just happening. And the example of giving that idea of going to a tailor and stitching is that you have created a certain niche, and that I'm able to work in a scale that I can sustain, rather than making it a business where after a point I cannot sustain. So I'm trying to keep the scale down. So for example, I don't have an online store. I don't have a retail outlet. There are things which I'm not doing purposefully, because if I do that, I need to scale up. And if I have to scale up, I need to look at the business from a different point of view altogether. So for me, the whole ecosystem works in a very organic way. It's more like a word of mouth kind of a model, that people refer to me, people come, then it grows, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but we are able to manage the highs and lows and sustain it.
See, the reason why I'm saying is because the amount of work, the quality of work, even the design that we see is amazing. It's outstanding. And your ability to build structure into the design itself and of the form, in the form of the product, like the bamboo, that the way you're doing it, even this chair with the way these battens are shaped. It's not easy for anybody to make this chair, because if I have to do this in my factory, I can't do this. The bending of wood that way, and not having used fasteners the way the regular commercialized carpentry does, where we just use screws and nails left, right, and center and just put things together. In this case, that's not how it is done. But once you have developed one product, it becomes that much more easier for you to replicate it to multiple pieces. Maybe not, you'll not be able to cut down the time to half, but the replication can happen a lot more faster, because your R&D is already gone on this particular type of design. And let's say now the Truss-Me collection that you have, you've already mastered the art of bamboo and the shape and everything to an extent that even if you have to create a new form in that, you will be able to do it much, much more easily as against the first time when you did it. Because that much know-how is already built into the system of design itself, that you know which way you're able to twist and turn the bamboo and which way it sustains the load. So basically what I'm trying to say is, now if so much is already gone into this, so much is there, so much, there is so much knowledge, there is so much of skill and craft and everything that is there. How do you see this growing? So because either there is a way that we look at it like a solo artist, where I'm painting, and if I'm able to sell one or two paintings over a few months, I'm able to sustain. Or it is something that, like I said, the cycle that needs to be created, and that cycle needs to go on. So how do you see this happening for yourself over the next few years, or maybe what's your vision for this?
I don't have a vision. Again, I might be repeating myself again, but as a creative individual, my limitations are that I have to do things in a certain way. Okay, I have this share and it can be replicated easily. Yeah. And to replicate it, I have to start another vertical in terms of business. Once I replicate it, I'll have to start another vertical to sell it. Right. So these are things as an individual I cannot handle or do it in my scope of knowledge of understanding of running a business. It's like industrializing this process. The moment you start replicating into numbers and trying to address into a larger domain of larger market segment, right? I don't know where it's going to come back as a cycle. Now, when I started 15 years back, I didn't realize what I was doing. I was enjoying the process. But now, if you look into these new businesses that are coming up as startups, do you see a trend or a pattern there? I don't know. I'm asking you in terms of.
I see a trend, but I don't know the aspect you're talking about. I do see a trend in.
So there is a trend of, again, trying to customize, trying to make businesses small, not big. Okay. Catered to a certain aspect or a certain product category. Someone is just making t-shirts. Someone is looking into pants. There are a lot of these new businesses which have popped up, which are really interesting models to look into in terms of scalability and scale and sustainability of making things and what they stand for in terms of a segment which is overexploited, like in the fashion industry. Like now, for me also, it's the same thing. When I started, I didn't want to make it a bigger business. I wanted to make it a place where we can experiment. It's more like a studio or a lab that could sustain itself with its own experiments. And I'm open to someone who wants to make this share to come and take it up or buy the design. But for me to do it, I have to create many verticals myself. If someone wants to make the Truss-Me thing, they're welcome to take it up from my studio and produce them. We are free to license it or whatever they want to. We can also share the knowledge base. See, I can do certain things in my scope of work which I enjoy doing. The moment I step out of that zone, I may not be doing what I'm doing. I'll be doing something else, which should dilute the whole idea of the whole seed from where it grew. And I have seen organizations and studios coming up with a very beautiful idea, but the moment they started growing up, everything dilutes. Then you finally go into a domain where you have to depend on something like China to fulfill those needs, those demands. There have been projects which started in India trying to focus on Indian design and Indian origin products. They started a business, they went into making things locally, but they couldn't sustain it. The business grew, they got investment. The moment they got a lot of money, they didn't have the supply infrastructure. The demand was there, but supply infrastructure was not there. So they finally went to China. So the idea we started to kind of sell original Indian design, went on to selling designs made in China in a bulk scale. So looking into these case studies, I was wondering if I do that, that's going to happen ultimately. Because when I'm working with hands, and the whole idea is to kind of create an ecosystem which would help that particular way of making things through communities. And the main USP of that whole idea is that we are not making inventory. Every chair could be a different chair. Well, I can tweak a little bit here and there for every product, which gives me the advantage to look at this business from a different point of view. But I can only do that if I'm just making one chair. I can grow the business. Okay, I made this thing and I want to produce it and supply it around the world. then that becomes a different direction for me to pursue. But since I never had a goal, I went on exploring various things that came my way. Kashmir happened, and Channapatna happens, and this happens, that happens. So I think I started enjoying the whole process of trying to demonstrate it's just not bamboo. We have so many crafts in the country, and there are so many people engaged in this practice. Can more people come and contribute and look into this craft from a different craft practices from a different point of view completely? Can this generate a larger businesses? Can policies could be put in a different way that we encourage handcrafting or this community, which is second to agriculture, which employs second to agriculture, because all the practitioners are farmers. Because when they're not farming, they're making things. And that's the largest economy, employable. Craft is the second largest, no? After agriculture.
Yeah. And the one that is not spoken about is sugar, which is agriculture though.
So we have such a large dynamic ecosystem, which is slowly languishing in many ways. Can it be revived? And if I just look at it as a business, I may not be able to maybe make that point of view or demonstrate that possibility. Okay, Sandeep, when I started, people only associated me with bamboo. But now slowly people say, no, Sandeep also does work in Kashmir. He also does Channapatna crafts. He also does wooden furniture. He also does installations. He also does a lot of other experiments, which are mostly concerned with traditional ways of making things. So over a period of time, the way I or our studio grew up was more like spreading our tentacles into various other things to demonstrate that the skill and knowledge we have in our country could move to another level. Instead of preserving it, instead of putting it in the museums, can we make it a way of life for the future generation to take forward? And I also made this point earlier that the younger generation of the crafts community may have different other aspirations, right? They want to become doctors, engineers, cricket players. Why should they practice the same craft that their parents practiced? But can that knowledge be given to someone else who wants to practice that craft? Can the knowledge bearers become an institution in themselves of transferring that knowledge to people who are keen to take it forward? Like, I want to work with bamboo. Can I go and practice that craft? I want to weave a sari. Can I go and train myself under a weaver, understand the ecosystem, and become a weaver? Can we create these opportunities? Because a lot of people want to do that, right? I don't know if you want to pursue some craft or something that, do I have to study design and engineering to do that? Or can I just go to an artisan, sit with him and learn? I think me growing up, if I had this opportunity of maybe born in a crafts community, maybe I would have seen things differently. But of interacting and engaging over the period of years with people working in that particular segment, I feel that we need to relook, because there is a potential, there are opportunities, because we always have been seeing to the Western ways of making and getting inspired and creating something that is homogeneous. Like every town, every city you go, you get the same brands and the same things. Is scaling up the only way of doing things up? It may not be. If I want to enjoy something in Japan, I have to travel to Japan, to that village, and experience it and come back. It may not be affordable for everyone, but can people from other places come and enjoy that same thing with the craftsman in a remote place in Tripura? So he's getting connected to a world outside, but he's not moving out of his place, but he's enriching his knowledge, his culture in a nicer way. How do we create this ecosystem? I don't know. So this is more like my engagement, which keeps me going. So it's a complex ecosystem, I guess, and I really don't have an answer in terms of business, because I think I'm not built to make it like a business. Maybe if I would have been money, I would have taken this somewhere else completely.
I think I can go on and on, because we've still not even gotten into work-related stuff in terms of design,
I have one inquiry point with him as a conversation.
For me, I think that is my journey. I think what we are talking right now, I think it'll get repeating only rather than trying to.
No, but there's so much more that we want to engage in.
I have a point of inquiry, and I want to engage.
So we'll do that. But what I'm just trying to say is, I mean, there is so much. We've already spent more than 2.5 hours, but I can go on 3 hours. But we can go on and on discussing, because there's so much more that needs to be understood on your designing process, your methods, your the way you collaborate. You're talking about traveling to Kashmir. You're talking about traveling to say Odisha and Tripura, Nagaland, Manipur, wherever there are these artisans communities where they're doing something different, even Channapatna and stuff. So there is so much more that needs to be explored with you. But just one point that I wanted to make, which came out from whatever Sandeep was also mentioning, that it's not an observation, it's not an inference, it's just a point that there's a craftsman, there are artisans, because Mr. Ranjan, whose name you mentioned, that he went out and set up something in the Northeast for people there. Now, two things. One is, can an institution like NID pick up or adopt a community and help them evolve to another level, a community of artisans? That's one. The other was between a craftsman. We have discussed this before in Pooja's episode also, where a craft and a design are two, like a ceramic designer and a potter. What's the difference? A carpenter and a furniture designer. What's the difference? An architect and a mason. What's the difference? We discussed all of this in her episode. But is money the only thing that differentiates between the design and the craft? Because somebody who is not educated enough to a level of design ends up doing the craft, and somebody who has gone to a design school and learned design of a particular type and ends up becoming a designer. There's just a thought, this food for thought kind of a thing from my side.
I'll pass. I can take that question actually.
So you can finish with whatever you had to ask.
So no, I think the question that you are asking is a very good question, but I don't think so there is a one-liner answer to that. But I can take that question to a certain extent. The aspect that I wanted to dig about, Sandeep, is, and I know this for a while, and I happen to have known somebody he considers his mentor as well, late Mr. MP Ranjan. My interface with Mr. Ranjan has been little, but I perceived their relationship, although I didn't see them together except in pictures. I perceived their relationship very differently, and the last time that Sandeep and I spoke about it, he mentioned that he is my mentor, and this whole relationship with a mentor and his pupil has always been exciting to me, because from the point of view of being an Indian, we call it Guru Shishya Parampara. Parampara is heritage. It's something that is passed down. It's a part of culture, right? If I look at that inheritance in a context of, he was studying somewhere. Karte karte he ended up in NID, right? And Mr. Ranjan was in the panel, and then he created a bond with him where he considers Mr. Ranjan his mentor, and he considers him as, like a disciple, pupil, student. There's this sanctity to this relationship in the way at least we look at it. But this is a new contemporary thing. This wasn't passed down for the past 3 generations. His grandfather did not know Mr. Ranjan's grandfather. Nothing like that. In such a context, it's a contemporary context. I wanted to know from him, what role having a mentor, by the way, not a mentor who professionally employed him, mentor as a play in his life as a creative person.
I think a great mentor is a person who doesn't impart anything to you. He or she just agitates you to discover yourself. I think that's the incredible strength Ranjan had. He won't preach you to do certain things. He would just talk. He would just facilitate. if he understands you, okay, he may not have the right answer to it, but he will agitate you to think about it. He will connect you to people or concepts that he came across to look into. But he won't give you a direction. He just kind of shakes you up a bit to think about it, and you figure it out on the way. So when he asked me to go to Tripura to do this teaching assignment, I told him casually, Ranjan, I never taught before much, or I never interacted much with an artisan or a community. I just came back from documenting Andhra Pradesh for the book. So basically, I went, traveled, interacted, and came back. And that's the only exposure I have. I never kind of sat and taught someone, because after that exposure of documenting and seeing the knowledge and skill people have, me going and teaching someone in Tripura was challenging. So that was going in my mind when he asked me to go and teach. I said, Ranjan, I cannot do this. I don't have the abilities to do this exercise. But he said, he tapped on my shoulder and said, you go there, you'll figure it out. Well, he didn't ask me that you go there, do this, and they will do this. He said, you go there, you figure it out. And he booked my tickets. I'm there the next week. And he gave me a camera and he said, do whatever, you're just shooting everything, document everything. So, to answer your question, I think a mentor kind of facilitates, he agitates, he understands you as an individual rather than a formula that you feed in that the output would come. Because he also didn't know that I'll be doing what I'm doing today. He would have never anticipated what I'm doing today. But the whole process of navigating, because he would come every time he was in Bangalore, he would visit the studio to see what I'm doing. Just to curious ki kahan ja raha hai, types. So I think that relation over a period of time kind of grew because I was not, or we are not following the traditional ways of doing things. And he would always encourage people who had gone off the path, off the, what do you call,
beaten path.
Yeah. And he'd always take references and give examples of people who have done that. Like Poonambir.
Yeah.
He would always talk about Poonambir when he's here. Or he would talk about me with someone that he's talking to someplace else. And they would call me that Ranjan was talking about you. So it was like connecting these dots about creating a network of people that he somehow had this kind of understanding. I don't know if the mentor word kind of fits in. Is it the right word, or a mentor people, or
I think
it was more about kind of creating these scenarios or situations that you question yourself and you try to figure out yourself and find a way through it and create something very unique.
Actually, it's exciting you're saying all of this, because I'm drawing parallels with conversations we've had with people who've experienced this kind of a relationship with somebody typically senior, typically not necessarily senior. And by and large, they use different words, but a facilitator is what we hear, a positive facilitator. You use the word agitation, and I understand why you use the word agitation, although it's typically negatively used, but you're saying that he made you think.
Yeah, when I told him that I may not be able to do this teaching assignment, I've preconceived that I have to be of a certain cadre to impart that knowledge to a group of people. But he said, no, you go there, you'll figure it out. He felt that everyone has it inbuilt. Once you're in a context, in a situation, you will find a way to...
He spurred you on.
Yeah, it's basically, karle. And apart from that, he'll give you certain other things for you to get engaged in. Like he gave me a camera and he said, and tapes, to shoot kar. Jo bhi kar raha hai, keep documenting. Because he told me that maybe I was documenting more than I was doing what I'm supposed to do. I didn't know, but I was trying to inquire through that whole idea of documenting.
He gave you a tool.
He gave me a tool to kind of maybe divert my thought process.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, when I hear about people who've experienced any kind of mentorship, of course, there are overlapping ideas, but they're not always the same. But what I hear from you are these aspects, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. And which is why I agree with you having used the term all the 10 years ago. But yeah, almost 10 years ago, 2015 is when we had the long chat about sitting out there. First is facilitator. I think a huge component of being a good mentor is, can you facilitate? The second thing is somebody who gives you hope, courage, whatever. This whole thing about कर लेगा यार. That थोड़ा सा जो धक्का चाहिए होता है ना इंसान को कभी-कभी. It also comes, I think, the third aspect is, I also feel they tend to see potential in you that you may not believe you have. I think that's a quality of a mentor. उसको दिखता है कुछ की और वो घी डालता रहता है उसमें. So facilitation, his act of putting fuel to fire that he sees. And I think fundamentally I also hear, although put in words less, there has to be some genuine care or loving or concern for you. Or else formula देके चला जाता ना. Why would he have to come? क्या कर रहा है? Just to check on you कौन करता है? You'll do it for your kid, yeah. You'll do it for somebody you care about. For people you don't care, why will you bother?
Yeah.
Time is a premium for everybody, right? So I do feel that these are things that you said I'm trying to summarize them, that he seemed to be a good facilitator. He spurred you on at the point when you needed that push or that courage. Third is he saw something in you, which he felt the need to fuel. And the fourth is there was some genuine concern or loving somewhere for him to feel something for you, almost like a kid or a son, that something that you'd feel. Like we feel fatherly or motherly for people, he must have felt that for you somewhere. These are the four things that I hear. Kind of puts into this bracket of being a mentor. No? The question that I had for you, call it receiving, when you have a mentor, it's receiving a gift of love. You need to be lucky for it in some sense. I don't think so everybody receives a good mentor, or everybody has a mentor, or has found one, or has come across one. So when we know that we have been mentored, do you also feel that you are mentoring somebody, or you would like to, or you would like to play the role for somebody? Are you playing that role for somebody else?
No, consciously, no. I'm not sure.
But are there kids who you see potential in and who have worked with you? You do something that Ranjan has done with you, kept an eye on, nudged them on, given them courage?
No, I'm not sure. I might have, I may not have. Yeah.
I've seen interns with you.
Yeah.
I want to inquire into two more spaces, but I think we should call.
We will do one more round with.
We must, because I think there are two big buckets that are left. One is this conversation about the next, and something that we had discussed about delving into his work, because there's collaboration. How does he manage to collaborate with what's a loose framework? Particular तो नहीं हो सकता business model. It's not a industrial business model. ऐसे मैं करता हूँ, ऐसा नहीं होता है. इंसान होता है. This model of working with, because if that can be encapsulated, I think when people listen to this conversation, they'll have something more. It's like a learning, right? It's like somebody giving them a format to say, hey, मेरे को भी यही करना है. ऐसे try करके देखते हैं. Right? It's like a formula that goes out. So yeah, I'll stop here because I can go on. Sandeep, I'm glad you spent this time with us, and you chose to be on this conversation with us. Thank you very much for that, for finding time, for prioritizing.
Thank you.
And for sharing your experiences and the way that your life has been so far. That is enriching, because that's also emboldening for me as an individual. Because when I hear you say that, this is what I'm doing, it enlivens purpose in me. I look at you as somebody who's held on to his sense of purpose very strongly, almost integrally. बाकी कुछ bother नहीं करने दिया इस बंदे ने. To me, that's why I know Sandeep. Very authentic to what he is doing. That's something that I encounter again and I soak in and take away from you. So thank you very much for that.
thank you so much for doing this with us. I know I'm left with still a lot of unanswered questions in terms of your designing techniques, your methods, and a lot more in the technical perspective. But we'll come back for that again. And this was good for us, good for me. I am super excited to be here, seeing all the work that you have. And every piece of art that you have created is more, what should I say? It seems to be more, law defining in terms of like the chair that we saw there. It just folds and falls off apart, and then when it comes together, you can still sit on it. And a lot of them, like every piece of art that you have created here, really excites me, especially when it's to do with wood, because my business is directly related to this, but not in the art form that you're doing. It's more commercialized. So, but it was great talking to you, and we'll definitely want to come back and talk to you more on the technical side of it. Thank you so much for doing this and finding time for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How is this conversation for you so far?
So I think it's wonderful for me personally, because whenever someone comes and spends some time and talks about my work, I get this time to reflect on. Otherwise, I'm in this thing of doing things every day, managing things. But it also gives me this time to reflect back. And some questions are really interesting because I may not have thought about them in terms of putting things together. Maybe in the next interview or next conversation I have with someone else, I might have something more to share. I think every time something happens like this, it engages. And I think today's interaction has been a lot of points that kind of made me think again about things. And yeah, I guess that's what I'll take back from this conversation today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.